Hey, it's Sam here from Train of Thought. Today we're going to be talking about how to organize your to-do list. Now, before we do anything, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Now, if you're anything like me, you would have grown up and developed your to-do list very much as a list, writing one thing after the other of all the things you have to do that day. Now, it's really great to get everything down on paper and to start ticking things off that list and starting to feel like we're getting stuff done. The problem is that when we write a list, literally a list of things, everything becomes equal. It's very hard to know what's more important, what we should focus on first. Everything kind of becomes the same. And so we just start ticking. And often what we do is actually tick off the easy stuff first to make the list appear smaller. Now, we've talked before about using the eat the frog technique to focus on what's most important first. But actually, before we do that, there's a step to take, which is to decide and work out what is actually important. When you look at your to-do list, what are the things you could do that actually would make the biggest difference, and what's the stuff that you actually shouldn't do at all? Now, we're going to be talking through a tool called the Eisenhower Grid, and it's named after President Eisenhower of the United States. He was also General Eisenhower, and he was president in the 1950s. And he talked about having an urgent, important problem. The things that are really important are often not urgent, and the things that are urgent are often not important. What he means is we often get caught up in things that have an immediate deadline, that we need to do them right now, and they're often actually not the things that are truly important. But that's where we spend our time. So what we need to do is find out what's really important, start to put aside some of the bits that are urgent so that we can focus on that important stuff, and we'll find we're actually able to do much more valuable work. We'll use our handy whiteboard to talk this through. So the tool is essentially a grid, and you can do this however you like. You can draw a grid on a piece of paper, you can just draw 4 independent lists. But what the tool's really asking you to do is to go through every item on your to-do list and put it into one of 4 quadrants, one of 4 areas. Now, these areas are based on these titles. What we have here is we have a column, and that column has urgent at the top. So everything in this column is urgent. It needs to be done soon. It's got a deadline. Everything in this column is not urgent. So there is no immediate deadline. There's no immediate push on us to get that done. On the rows, here we have important. So everything in this column is actually important. By important, we mean it's valuable. We need to get it done because it will help us to achieve something important. There's a level of importance. And what we have down here is not important. Everything in this row is not important. It's not really valuable. Not doing it won't make an enormous difference. Might make a small difference, won't make an enormous difference. Now, when you look at an individual task, what it's asking you to do is to decide whether it's important or not important, and urgent or not urgent. So everything should end up with a label of important, urgent, not urgent, important, and so on. When done, we plot them into these 4 areas, and then we can decide what to do with them. So if everything is urgent and important, do it. Clearly do it. It is both urgent and important. Do that straight away. Make sure it's done. This is the stuff. We'll get in trouble for not doing it soon, and it's clearly important. Get that done. Simple. Down here, we have not urgent and not important. If it's not urgent and it's not important, bin it. Get rid of it. There's no reason why you should be wasting your time on that. This is the stuff we shouldn't really be bothering doing. If it's not important and it's not urgent, get rid of it. These 2 quadrants are actually quite simple and easy. It's actually when we get to these 2 that it gets more interesting. Now, urgent but not important. A lot of stuff falls into this camp. It often is things we do for other people. So someone comes over, can you do this for me? Now, what they want isn't that important, but it is urgent because they've asked for it, and that can be quite difficult. What we really want to do here is we've got a couple of options. The first one is if you are a manager or in a position of power with people below you, this may be something you delegate. Because it might not be important to you, but it might be important to someone more junior than you. Because what is important and urgent is different depending on where you are in the hierarchy at work. So if there's someone you can delegate it to, maybe it'll become their urgent important. If you are the most junior person, it may be something you just have to do because that's how hierarchies work. But if you can, delegate it. Also, the other option is to say no. If it's not important and it's urgent, you can say, no, I've actually got some really important stuff to do. Now, how you do this, the way you do this is really important, and only do this if you feel comfortable and confident that the result is going to be positive. Spend some time thinking through how you're going to say it and articulate it, but it may be something you can say no to depending on your organization. But stuff here, we kind of want to get rid of. The reason being that actually everything in these last two, in this final row, is actually kind of procrastination. These are the things on your to-do list that you tick off because you want to have the feeling that you've got stuff done. You just want your to-do list being smaller. And as we talked about in the Eat the Frog video, that's not that helpful to us longer term. But also, it's delaying doing the important stuff. This stuff is what we call shallow work. We've got a video on shallow work up here. This is the stuff. It's not particularly challenging or difficult mentally, but we get a kick out of having done it, a kind of dopamine kick. Which takes us up to this final box, which is important and not urgent. We plan this in. We find time to do it. We make sure we know when we're going to do it. Because if you had to say the box that makes the biggest difference to your role, to your company, to your business, it is this one. This stuff you'll always do because it's urgent and important. This is the stuff we don't do. When Eisenhower was talking about stuff that's important not being urgent and that being a problem, that's because this area is where a huge amount of value is generated. If you run a business, it's your long-term planning. It's where you're going to be in 5-10 years. If you're an individual, this is where you work out your career trajectory. Where do you want to get to? What learning do you need to do to get there? How do you invest in yourself? Learning and development, all that kind of stuff sits in here. It's incredibly important, but it's not urgent. But this is the stuff we really need to do. This is how you make an enormous difference. You plan this in. You can use Eat the Frog. You can use your calendar. You can use monk mode. So you make sure you do it first thing when you're freshest. But the stuff that doesn't get done, that needs to get done, really is in this quadrant. If I had to say, come away from one thing with this video, it's doing more of this stuff. This is the stuff that really matters. Spending less time in here with procrastination and more time here. Now, if you use this tool to organize your to-do list, you'll find you'll start to throw things away that aren't important and spend more time on what really matters. It's a great tool, the Eisenhower Grid, and I'd really recommend it. If that was useful or you've used it for a while, let me know in the comments below. If you've had any challenges, let me know that too. If there's any videos you'd like us to cover, any topics you'd be interested in, let us know in the comments as well. Please hit like and hit subscribe as well. It's really important to keep the channel growing. And until we meet again, take care.